Hey everybody out there in Formland, Matt C again. This is Traxxion do-it-yourselfer install video number 5. I had a slow day yesterday after I got the rear shock out, but I had a very productive day today. The rear shock, of course, has to be the preloader, OEM preloader has to be removed and reused with the Traxxion rear shock. You've got to kind of put the Traxxion shock together, bleed the preloader, especially if you're installing Max's braided line, which you can see right there. That obviously introduces air into the system and it has to be bled. If you didn't change that line, it'd probably be a lot easier. But anyhow, I got all that done. Got the shock in, everything's torqued, the fuel tank is in, the bike is running. You can see I temporarily installed the controller panel here because I dry fit the shock before I fully installed it to make sure that everything was working properly and that it was extending with the different modes. And of course I had to connect the battery and put the controller back on to do that. And so that all worked. The bike is not throwing any error codes. Apparently there is a possibility of there being a code thrown, not because of the electrical pigtails that get plugged back into the bike but are not used, if you will. They're just hidden in there so the bike thinks that they're there. That preloader, that electrical preload, is part of the ride mode adjustment, meaning range, sport, tour, econ. And as Max has indicated, that little nipple moves a maximum of 1.5 millimeters, and so it's disabled, just like the anti-dive valve was disabled on the previous model bikes. When you put these shocks in there, you simply don't need those electrical ride mode preloaders. The preload adjuster that gets reused, that you can see living up in there now, that has to do with your suspension mode. One up with bags, two up with bags. And of course that does get used. And that piston on that shock travels quite a bit, puts quite a bit of preload between one up and two up with bags. Some of the gotchas, Max mentioned a lot on his videos. Some of these connectors are just a real pain in the ass. When you pull out the rear shock, the electrical connector, that ride mode electrical connector, that little pigtail, is a real pain in the ass to remove because of the way Honda mounted that connector. Where it comes off the shock, that end actually is what gets plugged into the, I call them mooring tabs, those little flat blades that so many of the electrical connections snap onto to keep them in place. It should have been the other way around, but anyhow, getting that thing off its mooring tab, it's kind of mounted upside down. It was just a bear to get off, but be patient and learn your motorcycle and BZ, and it's all good. Wanted to show you, that is the part number for those soft bolts that are right there. That bolt right there, this is on the front fork. That's a brake caliper hose junction box securing bolt. Like Max said, very soft, easy to strip. I stripped the hell out of this one, the left one. Disregard the right one. And so I ordered the parts, or ordered that bolt. And again, that's the part number. So They're only a couple bucks. I recommend, if you do this job, to have a couple of those in reserve just in case this happens to you. You won't have to stop working to order a part. There's the bins that have been retired, if you will. And what's left is plastic. Tomorrow I'll do the XM antenna install, which of course will be super easy because all this crap is off, and the wire will, you actually run it along the fuel tank here and tape it on with that cushioned adhesive, rubber cushiony stuff, and then it plugs into that dummy connector right there. You see that thing has no wire going into it. That's where the XM satellite antenna gets plugged into. So that's it. I should be done with the job tomorrow. Thanks a lot. Take care.